What's going down, fellas and ladies? I assume there's maybe some of you out there. It's a little after 7 here on That's Cool Drink. Episode 78 is going to be Dustin and Mason Moody. This week's episode is brought to you by the Bang Shit Billy, because that dude's my jam. And, of course, Neil. Thanks so much for the hat, Mr. Neil. That's a cool old school joke. And some of the OGs out here. And of course, Neil, part of the Bank Shift broadcast for Mega Week. And we are going to do some Mega Week talking. It's going to be absolutely crazy. But I want to talk about Mega Week on motorcycles. That's going to be nuts. So, guys, thanks so much again for tuning in. It is going to be so much fun tonight. And then I do need to real quick give a shout out to Mr. Michael Narks. Man, I owe that dude an apology. I've talked to him a couple of times, made a stupid post on Facebook, tagged him in it. We're cool. Everything's awesome. He's got the circuit coming up here very soon. So that's going to be very cool. But one for you, my friend, Mr. Narks. That is going to be awesome. And man, so cool to have Cliff Parvin back. If you guys don't know, about 3 weeks ago, Cliff had a stroke. One of the dudes in the game doing the thing. And unfortunately, he had a stroke. And he is on the mend. He feels like he's good enough to do the circuit. So I said, that's your race. You rock and roll it. And he's ready. I can't wait. For him to get back out there. But again, Narks, for you and Mr. Parvin, glad to see you climbing back up those stairs, my friend. So without further ado, let's get episode 78 kicked off. And it's going to be a Mega Week after action report with a couple of the Moody guys and talking about doing Mega Week just like we did, but on motorcycles. And I'm excited to have my second group of motorcyclists on. My first was group Pat Cook, but here we are, and these guys both are coming off of podium finishes as well at Mega Week. So here we go. Hey y'all, it's Tuesday night. That's Cool Drink. That's Cool Drink. That's Cool Drink. And we're back. The Moody's. Man. Mega Week. And doing it with your kid. We got to get all into it. But first off, give us the quick 30-second introduction. Who are you? Why should we care? Kind of thing.
Well, first off, since I'm dad, I'll go first. Dustin Moody. And born and raised Southeast Kansas. We live in Bartlesville, Oklahoma now, which is just north of Tulsa. About 30 minutes from the Tulsa track, actually.
Okay.
Grew up just about like everybody else who's going to be listening to this podcast. Like to race, like to go fast. It didn't matter what it was, but kind of grew up poor. So the cheapest way to go fast is get on a motorcycle. So that's where it started.
And did your dad have what kind of got you into motorcycles, or were you the first kind of generation of two-wheel guys?
No, my dad was always on the dirt. And actually, when I was 8 years old, we started out on the dirt. I had a little ATC 73-wheeler. I think everybody kind of knows what those things are. And I rode that thing.
Death machines, they're awesome. I love them.
Yeah, oh, they're amazing. Yeah, and rode that thing and advanced up to 250R 3-wheelers. And finally, in kind of that Southeast Kansas area as a kid, the farmers got to where they wouldn't let us ride on their land. And we started running out of places to ride and being worried about being sued and all that kind of stuff.
Right.
So that kind of morphed into motorcycles, because the motorcycles you can ride on the street bike, you can ride anywhere. So that kind of transitioned to that. And my parents didn't like that very much because we got into sport bikes eventually.
Right.
They kind of pushed away from that a little bit, and I tried to do that with Mason too. I tried to get him into like crocheting or that kind of thing, something a little safer. But when he decided he was interested in start riding, I thought, well, I guess probably the safest thing to me to do is kind of go right alongside him and try to teach him and show him the ropes and try to keep him safe.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. And just so people know, like how old a guy are you, Mason?
I'm 21 right now. I'll be 22 in 6 months.
All right. All right. So have you always same deal like from a kid watched your dad kind of doing stupid stuff and you were like, "Hey, that looks fun."
No, not really. I watched him for sure, but I was like, that's not kind of my thing. I was more of a sports guy. I played a lot of baseball, but then
Okay.
I don't know. I was in high school whenever I started riding. I only started riding like 4 years ago.
No
So
kidding. No
yeah,
kidding.
it just hit me, and then I didn't ride long before I started racing. So I just kind of just hopped in and was like, all right, let's do it.
I love it. I love it.
Yeah.
And what do you guys currently ride and or race?
Well, I got a lot of them. I, I ride and race all of them actually. But for Mega Week, I brought the turbocharged Honda Valkyrie. I wanted to bring something a little more unique, a little different. We actually brung it in 2021, and I let my buddy Roland run it. And it's kind of my fault. I didn't bring. That was Great Bend. The first race is in Great Bend at
Right.
that race, and
Right.
I was so worried about helping Baker with his fuel tech on his Hayabusa that I forgot the data logging stuff for the micro squirt that because that Honda Vaca is originally carbureted, and I
Okay.
converted it to fuel injection and obviously the turbo as well. And so altitude, anybody that's played around with or done any Rocky Mountain Racebook stuff, that altitude changes things, changes the tune quite a bit.
Oh yeah.
And it was the first year that we had motorcycles in Rocky Mountain Race Week, and
Mhm.
when we showed up with that Honda Valkyrie, it draws attention. Like everybody comes to that bike. I don't generally take it out for a ride because if I go get gas at a gas station, I'm there 20 minutes because everybody stops and wants to ask
Right.
about the bike, which is great unless you're in a hurry.
Right.
Then it's not very
Right.
fun. But
Is that the
so
blue
13,
tank one?
yeah, the one in the background right there, the
This one
cruiser.
here?
No, no, not that one.
Oh, the
That's a
one.
zero.
Okay, the one in the background there.
Yeah, the big cruiser, the one that was wheeling all the way through first gear.
Right.
That thing is
Right.
ridiculous. I mean, it's not a fast motor. Yeah, there you
There
go.
you go.
It's not fast. It's not meant to be fast. It's a Gold Wing powered engine. It's got the 1500 cc Gold Wing flat six on it,
Right.
and I got the turbo just sitting right in front of your right knee as you're riding it.
Right.
You get to hear all the sweet whistling and beautiful noises. That turbos and blow off valves and stuff make the whole time you're riding. It's a blast to ride on the street.
And it's
Um,
is it shaft drive too?
yeah, it is shaft drive, which is really weird. Anybody that's been around motorcycles, or if you haven't been around motorcycles, I'll explain it real quick. So most of the bikes that we drag race have sprockets and chains. And so
So
with the sprocket,
like this one.
yeah, exactly. That's got a sprocket and channel in the back. And you'll notice the tail light's pretty close to the rear tire on that because when you launch those bikes, they squat in the back. And it draws the back of the bike down, but a shaft drive bike is it's the opposite. When you get on it, it raises the back of the bike up. So when the back of the bike comes up and then the front wheel comes up, it's just a weird, awkward feeling when you're launching that bike. It
So
just
the
feels
whole
it,
thing is just standing up straight.
it just raises up in the back and then wheelies, and it just
Right.
it
It's got
doesn't
to feel
feel
so
right at
weird.
all.
I mean, you
The
can see
first
you reaching for the ground. Like,
yeah,
I mean, you
I
just
just drag
barely
my
got
feet.
tippy.
That's my ride height sensor, my tiptoes. When they come off the ground, I know I'm too high.
Too high. Yep, that's too much. Less clutch. Less less gas.
Yeah. What's funny about that? That's all power. I'm out of the clutch completely. That's just all power in first gear. Yeah.
Hell yes.
But that thing is a beast for what it is. And I think of course, keep in mind when you guys see me race, if you see me in person, I'm not a small guy. I'm 300 pounds, 6'3". I'm
Yeah.
too,
I
God
mean,
didn't build me to race motorcycles.
right.
Um, Yeah, yeah, and that's Chris Baker, one of my best buds. We've been racing. Chris and I have been racing since right out of high school. We went to high school together, and he was he was a butthole in high school, to be honest with you. We didn't hang out in high school, but after high school, motorcycles brought us together, and we've been best friends.
How
And we've
cool
been
is
drag
that,
racing.
dude?
It is awesome. And we had another guy named Dustin Scott. There was the three of us that his nickname was Oof, and it's the three of us, and we did everything together. We put more miles next to each other on motors on two wheels than anybody. And unfortunately, Oof passed away in a motorcycle accident. And that just made me and Baker become even closer. And we're
Okay.
like brothers. And we've been racing. I mean, like I said, since high school. And
Right.
we'll probably be racing in our 60s side by side. It's
That's
just that one of those
badass.
kind of friendships. Yeah.
That's
Yeah,
so
it's really
cool.
cool.
Hell
But
yes.
but yeah, but Baker's 165, 170 pounds or whatever, and
Right.
there's Baker there on his Busa, and I'm like two of him on one motorcycle,
Yeah.
but
Yeah,
yeah,
definitely.
that Valkyrie, it's a blast. I just brung it for basically just bring attention. To be honest with you, I like bringing attention to the bike class and just letting people see just more unique things. I mean, it's cool seeing fast stuff too. Don't get me wrong, but
Right.
I knew that bike was going to bring, and I every single day, I mean, I had so many conversations with people coming up and checking the bike out, and
That is so
and that's
cool.
kind of why I brung it.
Hell yeah.
Not
Hell
wrong.
yes.
Every gas station.
Every
I
gas
was
station.
able to have like a decent phone call every gas station that we stopped
Right.
at.
It just
Right.
strangers walking up, and it's like that bike. We give them an example, like, what's going on? I've been seeing cars and all kinds of stuff going by, so I get a chance to tell them about, Rocky Mountain Race Week or Mega Week in this
Totally.
case, and yeah, and share that with the locals and stuff, but yeah, the bike though would draw them in, and I guess make them feel comfortable to come over and talk to us. I don't know, but
You don't not covered by a cage, so there's like a
yeah,
person.
yep,
So,
Yeah.
yep. But no, it's
Mason, what'd you take on Mega Week? Oh, sorry to cut you off there, Dustin.
no, you're good. Go ahead.
What did you say? You cut out.
Oh,
Actually.
what did you take on Mega Week?
I took our Kawasaki ZH2. So it's basically just the H2 without all the fenders on it.
This is supercharged from the factory.
Okay.
Supercharged bike.
Okay.
Yep.
Which I raced it.
How big of I don't know anything about it. Give it tell me about that thing.
It's 1,000cc motor, which it was basically pretty much the whole thing was stock, other than we'll put the extended swing arm on it,
Mm-hmm.
and gave it a little tune. Other than that,
We retuned the factory ECU on that one, but
Okay.
it made on my dyno. It made, I think, 178 horsepower at the tire, bone stock, untouched.
Wow.
And with 91 pump gas. They had those things so detuned because they're turbocharged or supercharged, excuse me. So we opened the tune up and started playing around with that, and we ended up getting almost 220 horsepower at the rear tire from 178, and it's a
Holy
1,000cc
moly.
bike. But it's this. Yeah, and the cool thing about this bike, and the reason why I'm okay with Mason, this is one of the bikes that I love Mason to race, because not only but it's really, really fast. If you see, like in the shootout race at the end, he made it all the way to the semifinals in the
Right.
quick 32,
Right.
and so it's not slow. But it's got all the safety features. It's got wheelie control. It's got traction control,
Oops.
ABS. So when
Right.
riding on the street, it's got all these safety features that are great. That, like, again, that's kind of like me coming alongside of him. Like, hey, if you're gonna race, I'm gonna have you start off on this bike. It's fast, and you're able to learn how to control the speed and get familiar
Right.
and comfortable with that. But at the same time, it's got all these safety features too that can help keep him safe.
Hell yeah. That's awesome.
It's-
Like what?
it's
Like a
perfect.
supercharged 200 plus horsepower leader bike that you have no problem throwing your kid on. Like that's pretty sick.
Yeah, it's a pretty wicked deal. It's pretty wicked.
It's a nice bike. I love it. The only problem is the seat. It's the only problem. It's like sitting on cardboard for 1,500 miles.
Yeah, you don't want that.
But
that ain't no good. That ain't no
Worth
good.
it. Worth it.
Worth it. Hell yeah. You were a rookie last year, right, Mason?
Correct.
So
Right.
this was your
Yes.
sophomore effort, and
Right.
I mean, Dustin, you've done 100 million of these. What's it like doing 100 million of these and knowing that it's hard, and again, bringing your kid out, and safety features are one thing, but I mean, the road's the road, right? Like that's,
Yeah.
is it, I mean, I'm sure it's gotta be cool that you're with him and helping him out and doing all that, but that's, it, is mama super upset? Is she like, hey,
Mom,
Nervous.
she's laughing over here, sitting on the other side of the table. So the reality is, and this is legitimately the talk that I've had with Mason, because as we go through these different stages of life, and now that he's a young man and he's living his life, that's that new parenting stage for me that I have to learn that I want to have these talks with him and help keep him safe, but at the same time, I can't make him not do things.
right,
So try to guide him through the possibility. And we just have these talks before we go on these drives of, hey, keep an eye out for this. But at the same time, I make sure that he understands that when we get out here, I can't protect you.
right,
This is the real world. This is the real stuff. People run lights. People are on their phones. There's potholes in places we can't see. I can't protect you from this stuff. So you have to
right.
be willing to do, like, this has to be your choice and you want to do this. And the scariest part was last year.
We got a lot of that last year.
Yeah, last year was the scariest point for my wife Stacy and I both, because I ended up actually Baker and I both at the same gas station broke right
Oh,
before the drive after day one, in Tulsa, because it started in Tulsa. And so Mason was like, well, I guess I'm going to be out too. And I was like, dude, you don't have to be out. You can go,
yeah, no
but you're going to
way.
have to go without me. And what's that dude? What's his name?
Cameron.
The dude in the Volvo, like LS deal.
Oh, Cameron Thorpe.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Cameron
yeah,
Thorpe.
that man. I started visiting with him at the gas station. Him and I think his mom and dad were following with him,
Yep.
and he was like, "Hey, if Mason wants to hop in and follow behind us, because I was worried about deer and all that kind of stuff,
You
because
just
I'm not
never
good
know,
with him,
right?
because I usually lead, and so I'm not going to be there, and he's going to have to, and I'm usually the one that navigates and looks at the, because I have like a tank bag that I put on top of my tank, because I have to read the same directions that everybody else reads,
Right,
but I
exactly.
can't just like stare at that when
Yeah,
I'm going down
pull
the
them
road."
out. Right.
Yeah. So I have it in a transparent tank bag, like it has a transparent top where I can read it, and I kind of put my finger and I'll just like
Mhm.
up and down, like, and while I'm reading it.
And of
But
course, I mean, if you haven't seen Rocky Mountain Race Peak directions, they're not always 100%. It just is what it is. Everyone gets the same set of directions. So, I mean,
yeah,
whatever. B, it's like zero 0.6 miles, 300 feet,
yep,
475 feet, zero 0.3 miles. So, and a lot of these like streets are like, barely improved roads, and sometimes they're not even that. Very, semi poorly marked. On a motorcycle, it has got to be such a different thing. Such a different
it's
thing.
there's a lot of times that the other racers will be passing us, see us on the side of the road. Normally, if we're on the side of the road, we're not broke down. I'm trying to figure out my directions and see if I missed a place.
Right.
So, but yeah, Cameron let Mason just hop in behind them and follow behind them, which really took a load of stress off of me
Totally.
and my wife. And so we went home. Well, actually, I went home and picked my wife up in the truck, because at that point I said, "Well, I'm out. I'm on a road week at
Yeah.
this point." So I go
Totally.
home and pick my wife up, and then we decided he was heading to Enos, or Ennis, whatever you pronounce
Yep.
it.
Yep.
So we had him turn on Life 360 on his phone. That way we could always see where he was at. And then
Uh-huh.
we just like took interstate or whatever, and just to meet up with him, to get
Yeah, I
to
went as
him as
quick
quick
as
as
you could to get
possible.
over there.
Yeah.
Right.
And
And
then
then
we
you
kind of,
left him with the likes of Donovan Leader.
yeah.
And
I
that's
forgot
not
about that
any
picture,
better. I
dude.
promise you that.
Yeah.
That was a day. Man, that day it was like they said, you said it actually, you were announcing. It was like 150 degrees out there.
It
And right
was
before that,
hot.
I don't remember the guy, but he wrecked. We were literally going and we watched him smack the wall, both walls. And I was like,
Right.
oh no. And I looked at Donovan, he's like, I ain't got nothing under this. He just unzipped it and it went out. And I was like, all right, I'll do it too.
Because I'm
That
telling,
was
because
awesome.
these are full leather, zipped up, 360-degree zipper
Yep.
around the waist. I
And
mean, they
it was
do
the
not
track temp
ventilate.
was 150. I think air temp was like 108. And then you guys are sitting on top of engines slash radiators,
Yeah.
blowing hot on you. It's yeah. I didn't envy you at all. These last 2 years, you guys are
Yeah.
You're a different breed of dude.
Well, Mega Week wasn't so bad, being a month earlier, and we live in this area, so we're like, hey, this is going to be decent weather as far as temperature goes. But we knew that it's close enough. May's kind of that's our tornado weather, May,
Yep.
but it can stretch into June. So it was kind of like, okay, the temperature will be great.
Right.
But we don't know if we're going to be getting rain or tornadoes. There's
And
always that chance, which we
got
did.
all that.
We got it all. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. We did all that. Dragon drives aside, rain day. Talk us through rain day on
No,
motorcycles.
hold on a second. Hold on a second. We got rain every day but the first day.
Yep. Every day.
Oh.
Every single day we ran into rain. And I'm just like, by the end of it, I was like, I am so over rain. Like, can it just dry out? But
Right.
yeah, day one of the rain day, that was something else. That's actually what took Baker out. There was so much water. His ECU ended up. He's got a fuel tech on it, and it's supposed to be waterproof. But I don't know. It for whatever reason it got water in it, and it wasn't happy after that.
Right.
But yeah, it's so we knew waking up that day, and I'm not. It doesn't bother me. Well, I don't know if that's the right word to use. Like, I'm okay with running in the rain on a motorcycle. It's part of the deal, right? You're right. Me and my wife, we've went all the way up to Maine, the whole eastern part of the United States.
It's good. You're going to get rained on.
You're going to. So you pack rain gear. There's a chance this is going to happen. We woke up that day and knew right off the bat, there's no way we're getting through this without getting wet. So we were prepared, mentally prepared for it. But you just never know how bad it's going to be, and that's the part that gets a little bit scary and sketchy. So we were coming. I don't remember. We were going down the I-35, and I can't remember the name of the place that we stopped. But there was a wall cloud, that the first major wall cloud that we ran into. It was just black, black and lightning, and I was like, that I don't want to drive through that.
Yeah, that ain't no good.
No, so we stopped for fuel and decided, we looked at how bad it was going to be on the radar, and there was an Applebee's right over there, and we was like, why don't we play this smart and we just go ahead and go over and we'll take an early lunch, and we ended up staying there for a couple hours just to let that pass. Because it's a good thing we did too, because it's the wind for us on the motorcycles that sometimes gets the worst, especially if it's like a side wind or something. It literally will blow you across the lane, or out of the lane for that matter.
And then you get something kind of coming opposite direction, and it's blowing rain and wind at you, and then it could get you bad quick.
Yeah, so we don't have wipers, of course, right? So that's another thing we battle with, is if you go, there's a point where we decided to end up taking off, because we're like, well, let's go ahead and get our rain gear on, get going. It's still raining, but the bad stuff appeared to be. You need to plug in.
Mm-hmm.
The bad stuff, we got to plug this charger in real quick.
All right,
there we
no
go.
worries.
The bad stuff appeared to have passed, at least according to the radar. So we decided that, let's just go ahead and go. I mean, there's no way we're getting in the rain, so we might as well just bucker up, bundle up.
Yeah, we're gonna get wet no matter what.
Yeah.
Like, maybe we'll get less wet here or now.
Right. Yeah, and so we took off, and there was several times it was just that monsoon rain. It was. As Forrest Gump said, it was blowing sideways.
I mean, from the bottom, and it just, everywhere. there was water coming. I can't imagine it on a motorcycle, but.
So we dropped down to 45 mile an hour at one point, and we turn our hazards on. That's where it starts to get really scary for me on a motorcycle, because not only am I worried about just seeing myself, because when you go slower, if you go fast enough, the wind will make the beads of water come off your windscreen, and you can see. When you start going slower, they don't roll off, and then you get to where you can't see. So then you're worried about you being able to see. And I'm also worried about the person behind us, because I don't want to get ran over either.
Right.
And
so
we
you have half the lights and half the. There's just half the stuff to see you, and it was at points where you couldn't see 10 or 15 feet. So 45, 10 or 15 feet, something bad happens. Bad news bears real quick.
And I was told forever growing up, riding on the street, that motorcycles can't hydroplane. That is not true. I've had that happen twice. Not on this trip, but I've had it happen twice where I almost went down in a hydroplane.
Okay.
It's just you're going down the road and you're hunkered down in because they're like the tires are V-shaped profiled, so they just split the water. Well, they'll split the water until they just aren't able to split all the water, right?
Right. Can't do it anymore.
And then the tire just went. I can just feel the bike just kind of dropping out, and you just kind of like you freak out and you tighten up and tighten your butthole up, and then it just picked the tire back up and went on, and I was like, so then you're like, okay, I better slow. I gotta pull over here.
Slow down.
Yeah, slow it down.
With the rear
So I was
brake.
worried about that kind of stuff too, and especially with Mason, with not having as much highway, hours experience as I've had as an example. I didn't want him to get in a situation that maybe inexperience wouldn't get him out of. But again, I can't protect him from all that, and he's a grown man. He knows what he's getting into and he wants to do it. So as opposed to telling him he can't, so well, I'll just go alongside him and try to help keep him safe. So
giddy up. So Mason, kind of, new rider, obviously newish. What the hell? How was that? Was that crazy riding through? I mean, obviously your old man's got hours and stuff, but like, was there any point where you were just like, we're idiots? Why are we doing this, man?
First day, I thought that.
Okay. Perfect.
I think that pretty much every day, but no, it wasn't. It really wasn't terrible, honestly, until it got to the point where we were about done riding on that drive day, where it started to get kind of cold, and then we stopped at the hotel, and I'm like trying to take my gloves off and like letting people know, hey, we're good. We made it to the hotel, and like you type like this, and you can't move your fingers.
You can't.
They're purple.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, they're stuck in the handle grip position. That's where it's like, all right, that was a little much. But then, like, after that day, it really wasn't that bad because, like, we hit rain and we're like, crap, here we go again. But then there was like the last day we had like maybe 10 to 15 minutes in it, and it was just like, we've done it before. Pull over, and put on the gear, and keep going.
That's one of those things. Like once you've done the hard one, like the less hard ones aren't as hard anymore. Like
and which last year doing it a lot by myself, because even whenever Cameron let me join in, well, actually, to backtrack that, we had 15 guys last year ride with us, I think, or 12, something like that, some decent amount number. We were all together at that gas station. And Baker's like, crap, I'm out. And then Dad's like, all right, we'll figure it out. Dad goes to start his bike, and he's like, crap, I'm out. So then all those other guys are like, well, we're not going to win. We're just kind of here to watch you guys go fast. So we're just going to go home for the week. And that's when I was like, dude, I've got the whole week off. It's okay. It's not that it's kind of hot right now. It's not that big a deal. I'll just go home. And then Dad and Cameron were like, dude, don't give up. It's not worth it. Cameron was like, you can ride with me. And then we got about 3 hours in, I think. And then he stopped and helped somebody else. And it was getting kind of dark. So I was like, I'll just finish it up. I think we met in Durant. Me, Mom, and Dad met in Durant. And then from there on. So that mental game kind of helped with this week. Because I was like, I've done some of this by myself. If I can easily, if I don't have to think about directions or anything. Like, which I didn't there because I had to drive like 150 miles straight, and then I met them up. But
right.
So to not have to do it by myself the whole week by myself this year was fantastic.
Heck yeah, and of course,
you
did get to miss Mr. Leader, who didn't make it back. We couldn't recreate this photo, which is crap, in my opinion. We need to do that like an annual, all the bikers flashing us. I like it.
You'll have to get your ice cream.
What's his wife's name?
I can make that happen.
Donovan's wife, Erin, she was the first actual co-pilot on the back of a bike last year.
Yeah.
She was the first to do a full week-long one last year. So shout
Yep.
out to her. She's a road warrior for sure.
Dude, gangster, like absolute. Both
Yeah.
of them are gangsters. So, what do you guys do during the week? What do you? How do you make money, honey?
You can go.
Well, I'm in my 21st year of automotive technician. Most of my career, I've been worked for General Motors most of my career. It's where I work now. I work for a Chevrolet dealership right now. And then the motorcycle stuff's always just kind of kept going because, having that mechanical mind, I like to work on things, fix things, build things. When I come home, I honestly, I don't want to work on a car when I come home, to be honest with you. So,
Right.
but I need to exercise that drive inside my head to do
Yeah,
things.
that piece
So
of
that's
your
kind of,
that piece of your hood, your head.
yeah. So that's kind of where the motorcycles kind of come in. And the fabrication, like the turbocharger and all that kind of stuff, that I do all my own, fabrication and machining and all that kind of stuff.
Cool.
Self-taught on all that, self-taught TIG weld, all that kind of stuff. That all kind of starts even when I was young, following my dad. And, we used to build old hot rods and cars and stuff. And
Cool.
when I was real young, or when I first got my first vehicle, you remember the lowrider scene with hydraulics and all that kind of
Oh,
stuff?
totally. Yeah.
So that was my scene. So that's what me and my brother were kind of into. And I had a
Cool.
1962 C10 pickup truck that I built my own dancing. I was 16 years old. And I built my own dancing bed.
How
Fabricated
cool
it,
is
welded
that,
it,
dude?
and so
Hell yes.
so growing up and doing that fabrication, the hydraulics, and all that kind of stuff, and that customizing stuff, that's always been something I've really enjoyed doing. And I think it just kind of morphed over into the motorcycle, like, and the turbocharging and all that kind of stuff.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and then like custom fuel injecting, and I like to take older motorcycles that aren't fuel injected and convert them to fuel injection. And that but all that's pretty much I've done all that just becoming a mechanic. I actually went to college for business management. I didn't
Okay.
necessarily I didn't go to any programs, or which is ironic that the only reason I became a General Motors technician was I started drag racing with his buddy of mine that we drag raced motorcycles together on the weekends over Mocan. You've been to Mocan
Oh
before.
yeah.
That was our hometown track, or that was our closest track, so we called it our hometown track. And so every weekend we were going to Mocan, either riding over, and most of the time we just ride over, race, and ride home, kind of like that drag and drive style, before
Dude,
it was a drag and drive. But
so I mean, I've been to Mocan. I've been around Mocan. You were a husky white dude with a dancing bed C10 in that part of Kansas?
yeah, yeah,
Dude, that
about
is
40
so odd. Like,
yeah.
were you the only guy in like 1,000 miles?
There was not very many of us.
That's like, I mean, how do you get the motivation? I guess that's how crazy. Like, is it all from magazines?
A lot. Well, yeah, I would say so. And honestly, my brother's 5 years older than me, and my brother
Okay.
was kind of into cars because he was driving for me, and that was kind of what he was into, And a lot of times we're influenced by, the people that were around, and so my
Yeah.
brother had a big influence on that. He was into the lowrider scene, and of course, all that exercised all these things that I like to do or wanted to do. I mean,
Well,
fabricating stuff is not
it's
something
the
I knew how to do.
fabrication
It's just,
and body work and paint. And I have a huge respect for lowriders. I grew up in Southwest Denver. It's a big scene down there. And the amount of work that goes into lowriders is absolutely insane. If you've never seen a lowrider show, go look.
Yeah. Now my brother got all the artistic talent. I didn't get any of that. So all
Okay.
my stuff, it still had rust, it still had primer paint. His
Big
stuff
old
has
paint
always been the
and
stuff that was
gravel.
beautiful and drew all the attention.
That's freaking
But
awesome. I just
I
love it. I just love thinking about, again, I've been around that area. Like, that's farm area, dude. It's got to be a wild thing
sure
being
enough is.
again a husky 16-year-old white kid with a dancing bed C10 in farm country. That's
The cops,
I love it.
the cops didn't like us.
Oh well. Oh well.
Yeah, they always thought we were up to
They
no
still
good.
don't really like
Did you
it.
get into the stereos and everything too? Do the big woofers and all that?
Man, I tell you what, like I said, we grew up poor, and it was everything I had just to buy those Dayton knockoff
I get it.
spoke wheels, man. It was
I get
everything
it.
I had. So yeah,
I
no,
get
I
it.
I never had the I wanted it, but I didn't have it. But I had enough to
Where's
scrape up.
I mean, I'm just fascinated by this. Follow up question: where in the hell do you buy Dayton wheels near Mocan Dry Strip?
Oh no, you order them in off the magazine, brother.
Okay, so they ship them right to your house. There
Yeah,
wasn't like a
yeah, those
shop.
came from those came from California.
Okay, got it. There wasn't just like a hydro shop around the
No, 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 no.
corner.
We had to order everything in. Yeah, and this was before Amazon. You couldn't order from Amazon, so
Hell yes, I love it. I freaking love it. Did you know, Mason, that your old man is a G? Did you know that?
Oh yeah, dude, I've got a picture in my room actually with this old
Oh,
truck.
dude, I'm so excited now. I want to throw on the Chronic. Did you guys hear me rapping at Mega Week
I
while I was
think a little
announcing?
bit.
Yeah,
no. But
yeah.
you can
Oh,
go
hold
ahead and
on.
do it now if you want.
Yeah, a little juvenile, you know. But I gotta do the PG version because when you're blasted out to thousands of people, this is only going to have dozens and dozens of views. So yeah, it's all about back that ass up. Yeah, exactly. Stevie's like I had to play it for her. Yeah, so I do a little rapping. It's all good. She hates it. I'm amazed. I'm absolutely amazed that you had a little rider truck with the dancing bed at 16
Yeah.
near
Yep.
Mocan.
And had
That makes
we
me
used to do
happy.
the three wheel motion, all that kind of stuff. Oh
Oh,
yeah.
that makes me so happy.
Yeah.
Ah,
Yeah.
ah,
Yeah,
man.
we took the bench seat out of that truck and we'd go to salvage yards, That was back and I loved that. I mean, on the weekends, me, dad, my
That
brother.
used to be my jam going to
Oh
salvage
man,
yards.
we go to salvage for anything cool. Because it didn't matter on this kind of stuff. Hey, I want to try to find a new set of seats for this truck,
Right?
And
And
so
it
we'd
doesn't
go
matter what
look
they
for
came out of. It could be out
it
of
didn't matter at
anything.
all. No. Yeah. And we were looking at, man, this one's got power though. Let's get this.
Right.
I mean,
We
it
can
was,
make this work, no problem. And it's
yeah.
the same
Oh,
money. It's the same
yeah.
$29 for a seat. They don't care if it's power or not.
Man,
So
and there was this gym of a salvage yard that I'm fairly certain doesn't exist anymore because I think the dude's passed away a long time ago. But it was in Pittsburgh, Kansas, just north of Mocan, like
okay.
10 minutes maybe.
Yeah. Pitt
But
State University. I
yeah,
mean,
not too far from Pitt State University, and Hereford's Salvage Yard, man. He had everything. I'm telling you, we that was our go-to spot. It was our little gym,
yep.
man. It was every weekend. It seemed like it probably wasn't every weekend, but it seemed like it was a lot of weekends we would go there and just sometimes not go looking for anything, just went to look because you never know what you'd
We used to
find.
do the same thing. That's when we figured out that you could throw ceramic from a spark plug through a window. Easy peasy, lemon squeezy.
Yeah,
I mean, there's spark plugs and there's windows. I'm just saying.
yeah.
How old a guy are you, Dustin?
I'm 43.
Okay, so I'm 45. Yeah, we're like the
Yeah,
same age. Good
yeah.
stuff. Talk about fuel injecting old bikes. Apparently that's a thing that you are known for.
Uh, yeah. That's actually how Moody's Performance, my business, started. And it started with the ZRX bikes, which is the one you had up earlier with the patina looking paint on the tank.
Yep.
That's originally a Kawasaki ZRX. Yeah, that bike right there. Of course, normally they have a little different headlight and stuff on the front, and I've obviously highly modified this one, but
Yeah,
it's got
this one's a whole different thing.
yeah. But so I told you guys earlier about our buddy Oof that had passed away, right?
Mhm.
We wrecked his motorcycle. Well, his bike that he fell in love with, and kind of drew him into kind of the sport bike, the hot rod motorcycle scene, was a Kawasaki ZRX. So when he
Okay.
passed, I decided I wanted to buy one and I wanted to build one. I wanted to turbocharge one and build one kind of in his memory. So this is where this all started. So I went and found one. It was the same color at the time. Actually, it's now Mason's bike.
Mhm.
Oh,
I gave it to Mason, but I bought it.
Mason owns this.
No. It's a
Oh,
different. It's the same kind of bike. I have two of them. But
got it. It's
it's
the
more.
like the stock
It's
one, stockish one.
Yeah, it's
Pretty
stockish one.
much.
And I did turbocharge. Now the turbo kit that's on the blue bike came off of that bike because when I gave it to
Okay.
Mason, I was like, I don't want you to have a turbo bike, so I put it back to NA. But after I turbocharged it and started playing with the carburetors, and I did a blow through setup on the carburetors, and I got it tuned out pretty good. But man, I just don't like getting gas on my hands, and so I was like, you know what? Let me start looking into fuel injection and see if I can figure some of this out. Because I kind of heard about Mega Squirt and that whole scene because they've been around for like the 90s. People were building their own ECUs for a little or nothing. I started diving into that world again because everything I was building, I was always trying to build it as cheap as I could. Not trying to
Right.
put any money in it, and so Mega Squirt products kind of seemed to fit that bill for me at the time, and I ended up developing a bolt-on EFI from this bike by using other components from other more modern motorcycles, modifying a little bit. But I developed a kit that would bolt onto these bikes, and then all of a sudden, and this is back when forums were real popular. It's kind of this is
Yeah,
well, I mean,
totally.
I guess Facebook was around at the time,
But
but
this is
forums.
like late 90s, roughly.
Well, with fast forward a little bit more, it's like like 2010 ish, maybe a little before
Oh,
that.
okay.
So I mean, Facebook was here, but we didn't see. Well, I
It
wasn't
wasn't
on
what it is
Facebook. I'll put it
now.
that way.
Right.
Yeah,
It wasn't
exactly.
what it is now.
Yeah. And so I would go on forums and put posts in my build and all that kind of stuff. And it got so much attention. Guys in that world, because ZRX kind of has their own pretty good sized community.
Right.
And a lot of the guys wanted that EFI kit. So I'm like, well, I can put these together and sell them. And so that's how Moody's Performance came about and created the
Okay.
business and started developing, and started selling these EFI products. Of course, that was, like I said, around 2010 or somewhere in that ballpark. There's been a lot of updates and changes over the years and things that I've
Right.
made better. But then that turned into actually that Valkyrie that's above my head in the background.
Hmm.
That was actually owned by one of my best friends that I actually met through motorcycle. I met him at Mocan, actually. As a matter of fact, we were drag racing on a Friday night. He was from Chanute, Kansas, about 30 minutes from Parsons, where I was born and raised. And we met at Mocan, and they were like, we just started, BSing and shooting the breeze, and he was like, hey, we got a big group that it was on Friday night. And he was like, on Saturday nights, a big group meets. And so I got a hold of Oof and Baker and a few other buddies. I'm like, hey, there's a big group that rides, on Saturday nights. Let's go up there. So, anyways, his name was Ryan DeYoung, and we got real close. And so when I went out to visit, he lives in Colorado Springs now.
Okay.
And at the time, after I got my bike done, I went out there to ride. We would go out. Me and my wife would go out for a week and ride in the Rockies with him every year. We'd do it for at least a week. And so I took this bike out, the ZRX, and showing off the EFI and all that kind of stuff. And he was like, "Bro, can you do that to my Valkyrie?" He's like, "I want a turbo and EFI." And I'm like, "Yeah." So I brung that bike. That was his bike. I brung
That's
it
the
home. I
same
did all
exact
this.
bike.
Yeah, that is the bike. And I turbocharged it, fuel injected it, gave it back to him. Well, he loved it to death. And he took it to Sturgis multiple times as when he owned it. And then he calls me up one day and he's like, man, he's got a recording studio and stuff that he does. And he's like, I need a couple new mics, and I'm thinking about getting rid of the Valkyrie. And he's like, you said after, because I fell in love with that bike when I did it. And I told him,
Right.
I gave it to him. I said, dude, if you ever sell this bike, give me first dibs because I love that bike. Like, if I want that bike, if you don't own it. And he called me up and he's like, you remember when he said that? And I said, yeah, I do. And he goes, to tell you what, he goes, I want to make you a deal you can't refuse. And he's like, if you buy me new bikes or new mics for his studio, you can have that bike. And
Hell yeah.
which financially was a great deal for me and not for him. So I'm like, I don't feel right with that. And he goes, no, listen. He goes, every time I take this bike for a ride and I go to a gas station, everybody talks to me about this bike. And every time I talk about this bike, I talk about you. And he's like, you need to own this bike. And he's
Hell
like,
yeah.
I'm going to make you a deal that you can't refuse because I want you to own this bike. And that's how I own the bike now. But yeah, that bike is
That's
an amazing
badass.
motorcycle. Yeah, amazing motorcycle. And yeah,
Um, Mason, have you ridden the Valkyrie?
No, and I probably won't. That sucker is massive. That thing is, I've backed it up and I've pushed it around in the shop. But no, not my thing.
What about what about the OG?
So I technically have and also haven't. I've sat on it and I've pushed it up a hill because we live right on a hill. The first
Okay.
time we got it running, Dad took off pulled out of the driveway and died and rode all the way down the hill. And he was like, dude, give me your bike. You're going to sit on this thing and I'm just going to ride you back up. That didn't work. So then I had to just start pushing it back up. That's the only time I've rode that bike. I've sat on it, but I haven't actually got it out yet.
So that's funny you bring that up, Adam, because that's, um, we've been talking that I basically retired that bike. And the reason being
Okay.
is that bike's, it's a 2001 model. And it's got the engine, the base engine that's on it is basically, I mean, we're going to go back. I know, this movie, Top Gun, the original.
Oh yeah.
Tom, everybody's seen it. Remember the ZX, when you were a kid and you seen him riding that
And he's
ZX10?
riding next to the F-14.
Yeah, and you're like, oh, that motorcycle's awesome. Well, that base ZX10 engine is the base same family engine that's in my blue ZRA. It's just mine's a little bit bigger bore and stuff. Maybe the stroke, maybe different transmission changes and stuff like that. But the base of the engine is the same. So we're talking, 1980s technology in this motor, right?
Right.
And
yeah.
and obviously I built it. Yeah,
but...
and I'm not mad at it. I never expected that a guy my size would get in the 8s on that bike. And last year or the year,
what's
the
it
year
weigh
before that,
wet, like with you on it and everything? Do you know?
Shoot, we weighed at Vandermeer, with me on it, and now I'm trying to remember what it was. I don't want.
What is it? What is it on its own? I mean, you're a 300-pound guy, so
I think it's around 550, and with me on it, I think it was around 850. With me on it.
Yeah, and so I mean, again, we're thinking if you're a car guy, think about your weight is 2/3 of the weight of the vehicle. That's you would need to be a 2,000-pound human to equal that difference. Like it's a huge deal. And so like when you get a beanpole like Mason versus his dad, it's a very different thing on a motorcycle. It's the percentage of difference is huge.
Yep, huge. Weight on a motorcycle is massive, and not only just the bare weight itself too, but if you were to take a picture of me launching that blue bike from the side and a picture with Mason launching that blue bike from the side, the center of gravity is so much different because I'm so large and I'm so high. Mason can get so much lower, so not only will the weight be lower, but the center of gravity will be so much lower. It dramatically changes on a motorcycle, dramatically.
Totally.
Yep.
It's the like physics of drag racing motorcycles are amazing to me. You and Chris both getting 8-second passes on your bikes with not especially both of you guys, but Chris's bike is a pretty basic extended swing arm turbo Hayabusa. Like he just has the nuts to ride it around and ride it fast. Like that's that to me is super duper cool. Like it's pretty awesome.
So back to the ZRX with the old school technology. So I never thought I'd be able to get ace out of it. Well, it turns out, but I am pushing a lot of power of this bike. I'm almost 350 horsepower at the tire on that blue bike on 20 pounds of boost.
What's the displacement?
The displacement is 1200 cc.
Okay.
So it's a little bit smaller than the boost motor. Boost motors are a little over 1300, so about almost 150 cc's less. But I'm actually, at least last time I raced with Baker, Baker's turned his up and made some changes to his motor. He can actually make quite a bit more power than me now. But I was technically making more power than he was. But with the weight difference between him and I, I couldn't quite keep up with him. Right. I found out with that bike, if I push the boost over 20, I lift the head every time. I've lifted the head over and over and over. And again, it got to a point where I'm like, because I keep leaning on it because I'm trying to catch up to Baker, and I got the scramble button there and I just can't keep my finger off of it.
It happens.
And
it happens.
In the heat of the moment, man, it happens. But
you can't let your dude outrun you. No, especially if you watch him drive out of your life. We're gonna make this a race at least.
Yeah, we're best buds, but not when we line up.
Exactly.
So I decided.
So you built this stuff out of stock ECUs for the for that what ZXR, is that what it's called?
ZRX.
Yes.
Yeah. So no, I started off originally my very first one, which is the one that Mason owns now. That was with a micro squirt with a mega squirt product. It's a little itty bitty small, like a
Yeah,
$300
they're
$400
teeny.
ECU.
Yeah,
Yeah. I mean, they're great ECU for the. I mean, probably some of the best bang for the buck, but you're super limited on inputs and outputs.
right.
But when we stepped up to do the turbo build and the race bike, the blue bike, we knew we needed a lot more inputs and outputs, and so we decided to try that's Fuel Tech powers FT 550 on that. It's Fuel Tech powered. And it just seemed like the Fuel Tech would be a great fit for motorcycles because they're supposed to be waterproof and so on and so
Right.
forth. And
Right.
the other thing about a motorcycle too that's a lot different than a car is we're so limited on room and space that we can mount things.
And weight
And
matters like by a lot. Again, we're
yeah,
talking 300 pounds, but if you lose a pound, I
yeah,
mean, that matters. Like
yeah,
3
sure.
pounds, all of a sudden it's 1% of the bike.
Mhm.
That changes rapidly. Like your 3 pounds is our 30 pounds.
Yep,
So that
very
starts
similar, very
mattering
similar.
rapidly.
Yep. Yeah, the only time I try to add weight is if something I feel like it's a necessity, or if I feel like putting like a really big intercooler off to the side, I'll do it for that kind of stuff. More
Yeah,
for the attention because I like to build just weird and kind of crazy
it is,
things that
it
just
is
draw
weird
attention.
looking. I mean, I don't think I have a picture. Oh, I do. Here's one from the front. But just
Yeah,
watching that thing going down the road with that gigantic intercooler on the side, there's no mistaking that there's something going on there. Like it's a big, huge
yeah,
advertisement.
right. It's like, hey, look at me,
Yeah,
and that's kind of
check it
why I
out.
do that kind of
Come
stuff
talk
because
to
I
me
want to draw
about
attention
Moody's
to it.
performance design.
Yeah. Yeah. So the next bike that I'm building after I retire this one, or I say I'm retiring it, we're planning on maybe trying to set it up for Mason because the clutch and everything we got in it is Baker and I both, and a matter of fact, I think Shane for this year ran the same clutch that we run. It's a made by a company named MTC. It's a Gen 2 multi-stage Gen 2 clutch. Basically, what it does is it changes. It's got arms on it. You've seen different like clutches
Like
on
like
car
an
stuff that have.
adjustable race clutch.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Yeah, so you can add weight. It's got it's spring loaded. The arms are spring loaded, so you can change the springs. You can change how quick the arms come out. You can add a bolt with washers and weight, to the arms.
totally.
To
So
and you,
it's an adjustable race clutch for a
yep,
motorcycle.
and right, and a stock clutch on a motorcycle um, is is uh, is it's how do I word this? It's basically it's the clutches we use now with the arms. They're RPM based.
Right,
So
right.
the
So
clutches
the
the arms come.
centrifugal.
Yeah, the arms come out based off engine RPMs, not transmission RPMs.
Okay.
So okay, so basically what we can do is we can literally that blue bike when I go up and I pull the clutch in and I put it on, I go whatever thought I put it on the two step. I literally throw the clutch away when I'm ready to go.
And it
And it
just
turns it makes our clutch. You can tune it, but once you get it tuned correctly to your weight and your wheelbase and your power input and all
totally.
that kind of stuff, once you get the clutch tuned, it acts just like a torque converter, and on a car
Mhm.
on an automatic.
Yep.
So I literally go up and I just throw the clutch away
Just
or I throw the
the
clutch.
clutch does its thing with the fingers, and then
Mhm.
you're off. And
The bike take, and then you can
it's the
tune your
same
60
thing
foots and
in the car
yeah.
world. Same exact thing in the
Mhm.
car world, and they're game changers. And that's where the bank shift Billy comes in.
Yeah.
It's a hydraulic release bearing that will slow
Yeah.
down your hydraulic clutch on your race or street car. So check them out at
Yeah.
bankshiftbilly.com.
There
Yes,
you go.
it's that same exact thing, but if you don't want to go full race and you don't want to have the lever type clutch, the one issue with those is being RPM based, you can't lug them. I'm sure it's the same with a motorcycle. I'm sure you need to change stuff possibly, but in a car application, especially with overdrive gears, if you lug that thing, you'll glaze it and then you're in bad shape. But I don't know if it's the same on the motorcycles or not.
Well, the cool thing about these motorcycles, the dynamic springs that I was talking about, that you can change the different
Yep.
lengths and tensions, we completely remove them when we go to. So we have track mode and road mode. We
Okay.
remove them completely, and then the arms come out freely, and so their clutch will
Oh,
lock up almost like. Then
that's
your clutch
like
lever goes back to like a normal clutch, like a
that's
normal
like
clutch on the
cheat
street.
mode stuff. You guys are just cheating now.
Hey, so this company said when I got a hold of them, I'm like, hey, listen, we're doing drag and drive motorcycles, and they're like, what? And because they build these for just all out, full out drag bikes, right?
Right.
And I'm like, and the difference between this clutch is a lot of these clutches people put in these bikes, they're not hand clutch activated. They're solely they have no clutch on the bike whatsoever.
So it's
But those
just
bikes, yeah, but they can't ride back. They have to be pushed back down the pit in the pits. So
mhm.
this is called a hand slider, a hand slider clutch. So they're able to drive them back through the pits and stuff. But they'll slip a lot, like what you were talking about just a second ago,
Yep.
unless you pull those dynamic springs out. So I told the guy, I was like, well, if I just pull the dynamic springs out, I think that the clutch will work fine on the street and pull a trailer. He's like, you're pulling trailers? I'm like,
You're like,
I
not
tell you
only
what.
are we doing it, but like 10 other assholes are doing it too.
Yeah, yeah. And I'm like, he was like, wait, you're drag racing and pulling trailer. Yeah, I know that sounds crazy, but yeah, we are.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
what we
that's
do.
actually stuff we're doing. That's true.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Yeah. So and it worked perfect. He told me he's like, no, they're not streetable. It's not gonna work. And I was like, and these things are like almost $2,500 for these things, these clutches. So I'm
Totally.
like, man, it's a lot of money for it not to work, but I'm like, man, I think it'll work. So I went ahead and bought one, and man, it worked like a charm, worked perfect. And the nenext time I talked to him, I was like, yeah, I know you said they're not streetable. Oh no, they're streetable. They're streetable. I was like, I think he saw my post on Facebook
Mhm.
because we follow each other on Facebook. I think he realized not only is it streetable, but it'll pull a trailer too, fully loaded.
No big deal. Just throw that in your advertisements for free.
Yeah, yeah. But no, we're thinking about, or I would like to, is if Mason wants to, we could set that clutch up. It'd have to be completely retuned for him, his weight. We'd have to reset the suspension up for his weight, but we get the suspension set up, we get the clutch set up. Mason would be insane on that blue bike. He would
Hey
be
Mason.
insane on that. Yeah, if Mason was riding that bike, we got it tuned and the suspension, the clutch tuned for him, and we can slowly ramp the power in. We don't have, we can control
Hey
the
Mason.
power.
Yeah.
Hey Mason. Look how neat. Hey Mason. Hey, check it out.
Dude,
Hey
I did
Mason.
everything on a stock
Hey Mason,
clutch
look.
this year and last year. Hey,
Hey
I
Mason,
got
look.
2 of those.
Yeah, you do. What's it like heads up racing a motorcycle against cars?
It's
Scary.
but fun.
Right.
It's one of my biggest fears. I'm super not comfortable with it, and the reason I say that is at the level that we're racing at, when we get into the quick 16 and quick 32, those are fast cars. And
Real
in
fast
my
cars.
mind, they're super fast. I give all the credit to these things are flying. There's a
I
lot
mean,
of weight moving them tracks.
9-second, 3,000-pound cars. I mean,
That's insane.
Dude, the truck that I barely came around in the 3rd round of the quick 32 this year.
Yep.
That was a scary one because it's like when you're my first 2, I was out far enough to where it was like, okay, if something happens with them, I'm good. I'm in the clear.
Right. I'm
But
far enough. Right.
yeah, that's where the scariness comes in because it's like, dude, I can see that guy. I was literally tracking him down. So I'm like, if he goes wrong, I'm right there next to him. Like,
See,
I've got it too.
it's a lot of the fast cars when they break on the big end, and that's what scares me.
Right.
Because if
Right.
they lose traction in the big end and we're side by side, it's not a matter we're banging. It's a matter I could potentially getting killed.
Right.
And I know that's probably worst case scenario, but I mean those are the things that run through my mind.
It's the one in a million, but like, is this my million? Because you're rolling the dice right then. Like that could be your million. That's why I got out of the Army. You can only tempt the Reaper so many times. Once in a while, at some point, he's going to poke you with the fork. And I just want to give him less chances to poke me with the fork. I get it.
Yeah, but at the same time, it's kind of that the competitor inside of you is like, and I brought it up to Matt that one time because I was kind of hoping. I know it doesn't seem fair, but I was like, well, can we just run individual passes?
Right.
I mean, and then whoever was fastest won. And he's like, no, I can't really. Which I get because I was like, well, man, these fast stuff, if they break loose on the big end, which can happen pretty easy when they're moving out that, they're making that much power. I'm concerned. I don't want to get ran over. And he's like, yeah, I don't blame you. And he just turned around and walked away. And I was like, okay, I got to decide. Do I want to do it? So I went ahead and did it because the competitor in me is like, no, I'm not backing out.
I can't not try.
Yeah.
I mean, whatever. If he runs me over, then I'm gonna, I went out doing some cool stuff, at least.
Yeah.
But
it's fun.
I'm sure it's got to be different. And then even turning off the racetrack, you just never know. I mean, it's the same thing as on the road. It just stuff happens. Sometimes you're in their blind spot. You just never know. And if you're on the motorcycle, if you've never ridden a motorcycle, ride a motorcycle. Just take a motorcycle class and get an idea how small you are on the road. Because if you just drive cars and you're just texting and stuff, motorcycles, you're teeny, man. You're teeny.
I always, like, in cases like that, I always try to I give them all the right of way. Because we can usually slow down pretty quick. And I'm like, usually last time I was raced a guy, at Mega Week, raced one of the cars in the bracket shootout.
Yep.
I just went ahead and just slowed down, and I could see he was looking for me, and I just waved him on, like, just go ahead and give them the right of way. That way, I guess that gives me, I feel like I'm in control of what I'm doing at that point. But
at least as much control as you can have right then.
Right.
But, and then I want you. We're already at an hour. I told you this went quick, right? It's wild. You started sponsoring a second motorcycle class, kind of within the main motorcycle class, and kind of gave everyone a shot to earn themselves a little something. And talk about that. Talk about bringing for both of you, kind of bringing drag and drive motorcycles to the forefront, because I think the circuit's doing it, right? Are you guys in the circuit, by the way?
We're not. We've done the circuit before. I'm not doing it this year, but
okay.
I've got so much other customer work going on at this time. It's hard for me to take off so much. But
what's it like doing this stuff? Because I mean, I'm sure even in the motorcycle community, like you said, people are like, "What? You're doing what?"
So that first year, when Matt opened it up for the motorcycles, and we were all over it, we're like, heck yeah, let's do this.
Right.
And there was actually quite a few that showed up that first year. But I was like, man, we can grow this. Like this could, and because for me, it's like right up my alley, because back in the day, I had a nitrous Hayabusa. It looked almost identical to Baker's, just was nitrous, and a massive motor, like a 1535cc stroke motor. Thing was insane. Made 254 horsepower on motor at the tire, then had 200 shot nitrous on top of that.
Wow.
So I built it and financed it, and Baker was jockeyed it for me. And but anyways, after that bike, it was just basically a full out drag bike, and it kind of took the fun out of it, because we used to always ride to the track, race, ride home, do stupid stuff on the way home, and just had a great time. Just fell in love with motorcycles and just the community that came around that. But then when we got so heavy into drag racing, it almost took some of the fun out of it. But then when drag, and so I sold that Busa, and I was like, I will never build an all-out drag bike or anything ever again. Like that sucked the fun out of it for me.
I did the same thing.
Yeah, and then drag and drive came around, and I'm like, wait a minute. I like to drag race. I do like to drag race. I like everything about that.
Right.
I like to drive or ride on the street. I'm like, this is perfect, because I like because at that time I was building my turbocharged ZRX. I'd already built the Valkyrie. I already built several of them bikes that were just hot rods on the street, and so I was like, this is just perfect. This is exactly what we want to do. So I'm like, I'm all in on this. Like I'm in. So then I'm just thinking, I want to get more people involved. I was like, but when I would try to reach out to people, the same question I got every single time was, well, how fast you got to be to win?
Right.
And then as soon as you said, well, you got to be able to run an 8, well, that pretty much knocked out on street bike world. That knocked out a lot of pretty much everything but a sport bike. You know what I mean?
Right.
And so that's kind of where I'd reached out to Matt and June multiple times, and we talked about it. And I was like, hey, if I come up with try to come up with something, it's hard to, and right now I would love to come up with better and bigger awards, but there's just not a lot of people.
But it's something, right? It's something cool for someone that doesn't have an 8-second bike or the money to build an 8-second bike. That, I mean, as well as anybody else that takes some green. And if you just got, whatever, an Iron 883 sitting at home, now you got a place to play and you can actually be competitive.
Or a Grom.
Or a friggin' Grom, for crying out loud.
You can be competitive on a Grom now. I mean, it's just something that, that was the intent behind that, right? The intent was to give everybody else that didn't have these super super fast bikes or sport bike, you had anything other. Hey, that right there, that guy on that is a ZX12R Ninja. That's oof.
Okay,
That was a pitch that my brother did that the leather tooling and stuff.
that's kick
I
ass.
gave him I gave him a picture of oof launching at Mocan, and that's what he did.
That's kick
Uh,
ass. I didn't know
yeah,
that.
yeah,
That's
yeah,
cool. That's really
yeah.
cool.
Yeah, a lot of people don't know that. Now Baker won that one that year, and as soon as I never showed Baker, and when I showed it to him, man, he almost broke down in tears.
I'll
But
bet.
yeah, he was like, man, this is the best trip I ever got.
Hell
But yeah,
yeah. That's
that
freaking
was
cool.
awesome. Yeah, that
That's
was
cool.
awesome. Sorry, that was a squirrel moment,
No, it's all good.
but
It's all
anyways,
good. And Pat Cook says you can be most consistent on a Ninja 400 running 14s.
oh yeah, yep, there you go, there you go.
Yep.
Yeah, he did. He won too. That's right.
Hell yeah. Hell
So.
yeah. But
But yeah, that was the point of trying to just to bring more people in,
and it
and
worked,
hopefully,
I think, so well. I mean, we've had Harleys, we've had, I mean, all manner of all sorts of stuff, and just for the same reason, like get out and enjoy your bike with some cool
yeah,
people, bird outs every once in a while, and you also get to race and whatever. Occasionally, maybe get your nips out. It's no big deal.
Hey, there you go.
But
You got to do what you got to do on a
you
hot
got
day.
to. It's hot, man. It's hot out there. We're gonna get into my questions. Well over an hour here, so we'll start rocking those. If you have questions for the Moody's, throw them up here in the comments. Let's get those answered as well. But I gotta know, and I'll just we'll start with Dustin, and we'll go to Mason on these, since Dustin wins by being old and making you.
Age before
So
beauty.
that's right. That's right. What's the largest thrash that you've been a part of?
oh shoot, on Rocky Mountain Race Week, man,
On
I gotta
anything,
say, uh,
whatever.
during the event, I would say, it was on the last, it was on the, oh shoot, it was 2 years ago in Bandamere. It was our last time we were going to be at Bandamere.
Yep.
And I had to run an 879 at Bandamere, which I'd never done at that elevation, never even been in the eights that elevation. But if I
5,800 real feet of elevation.
yes,
DA's
yeah,
typically 8,500 or better. If
yes,
you don't know.
but Baker was gonna seal in at the first ever 8 second average on a bike at Rocky Mountain Race Week. But I had to run. It wasn't 879. I had to run an 892 or something like that. If I could click off an 892, I think is what it was, or quicker, then I could also lock in an
8 second
average for
Hell
so
yeah.
it would be both of us at at the same time locking in the first two 8 second averages ever.
Right.
And I gave everything that I had, everything, and then some. And I ran an 879 at Bandamere, which is almost one of my best ever passes on that bike.
Hell
At that
yes.
elevation, though, I gave it
Hell
everything.
yes.
But at the very end, I lifted the head and I burnt a piston down. And I came back smoking and on 3 cylinders, but still got that eight lock. But in order to actually technically lock that
Right.
in,
You had to
I
make
had
the
to
drive.
make the drive and break the beams on my own power.
Right.
And so we were thrashing at first I'm like, I'm out, dude. There's no way I can do this. But we figured out it held coolant. It didn't blow through the cylinder. I say I lifted the head. Actually, I say that no, I wasn't burning any coolant, so I couldn't have lifted the head. But it melted a piston either way.
Okay.
And we basically unplugged an injector. I was like, well, let's just unplug that injector to that hole, and I'd take some extra oil with me because it's smoking a little
It'll
bit.
just be
And
smoking
but
and pumping that oil out. Yep.
yeah, and so we babied the thing together where I could try to make it to which we had to go all the way. This is ridiculous. The thing did not want to start at this point, right? 3 cylinders. It's hurt. It's not want to start especially at elevation. And it was cold in the mornings that morning or those mornings, and we had to drive all the way up to what's that place? Fairview or South
Fair
Park or
play.
something.
Fair
Fairfax.
play.
Fair play. That's it. So that was one of our checkpoints was in Fair play. And so you got to go there's like 9,500 feet or elevation or something
Right.
up there.
Right.
and then come back down to
On 3
Pueblo, and
cylinders,
I'm like,
hurt, screwed up.
yeah, I'm like, I'm not gonna make this, but I made it, man. I made it in, and was able to lock in that. It was a second place victory for me, and
Hell
one of the
yeah.
first 2 bikes to do 8 seconds. So that was my biggest feat to kind of ever go over, and we kind of thrashed in the pits there a little bit, trying to figure things out,
Yeah.
but yeah, that was it.
Have you thrashed yet, Mason, on anything?
Luckily, not really.
Oh, it's time. We gotta earn you some
So-
thrashing.
The one thing that we added this year, last year I did race week on the same bike, but I didn't have a trailer.
Okay.
So I did, and if you've seen that bike, that gas tank is weird, man.
Right.
So I got saddlebags like right on my butt, and I've got a tank bag right there. I've got everything shoved into that tank. My whole body was like, it was terrible. So
Okay.
then Dad was like, dude, we're putting a trailer on it. So I said, okay, let's do it.
And that leads me to another question, like trailer or no trailer, and you guys are trailer people now.
100%.
Yeah, after the first year, I did a trailer. We did it without a trailer the first year, and at that point, I was like, no way, because we have to, we have to carry everything just like everybody else.
Yeah,
And
yeah. So your week's worth of laundry, and I mean, think about the bags you're putting in your car, and then you're talking about drive days. I mean, it's 6-7 days plus. You guys sweat and all that stuff, so you're gonna be stanky.
Yeah.
So if you want to have parking lot beers, you better have another shirt. At least.
Another thing we figured out of the first year is a Camelback, because when it's real hot like that and you're around so much wind, and you don't think about it, but even in your helmet there's so much wind around, you evaporate so much moisture that
Right.
at your stops, if you stop every 2 hours, 100 miles, 125 miles for fuel, at your stops you cannot hydrate enough to stay hydrated.
Yeah.
You will dehydrate yourself. And so you have to bring it. Well, you figure that out the first year, because it felt like it about killed us that first year in that heat.
Right.
And second year we bring this Camelback with water, so as you're riding down the highway, you can you can take a drink, because in a car you can just take a drink with you, take a drink whenever you want.
You can, I mean, just slugging beers and no problem. Like, life is good.
Yeah.
But on a bike, you're not stopping to pick up. I mean, you can't just whatever.
Right.
I get it. That's
So,
stuff I hadn't thought of. See, this is why I had you guys on.
Yeah. So we learned that at the first year. We learned that, and I was like, I will never go without a Camelback again, because that's the worst. That was probably the worst part of it, is dealing with the elements of just being on a motorcycle, and trying to stay hydrated, and then trying to still enjoy yourself by the end of the week, but
not want to be on a motorcycle ever again.
Yeah. Which most of the time, that's kind of how we feel at the end of it. Because especially like after all the rain we had this time, it's like when you get home, you're like, I'm good for about 2 or 3 weeks. And then like right now is the perfect time to talk to us, because we're like, oh yeah, it was awesome. It was a blast. But if you would have caught us like the first 2 days,
I never
after,
ever am going to do that again ever. Like, I don't care how much money you ever give me.
When we broke the beams this year, we were like, it was 1 o'clock, and awards didn't start till 5.
Right.
We're 30 minutes from home, and we're both kind of like, we don't want to ride, but let's just get this crap over with. So we broke the beams, hurried up, and went home, and then we just showed up in the truck like 3 hours later.
Yep. Showered.
We were done.
Poop in your own toilet. That's a big thing. Like,
that's a big thing.
Yeah, no kidding.
I get it. I mean, we just got off of 2 of them in 3 weeks. So yeah, dude, we're on it. It's a thing for sure. Tell me about the one that got away. What car or motorcycle did you sell that you shouldn't have?
Oh man, that's a real good one. So this is kind of the cool thing about that question, though. Like, everybody probably has that story, but one thing that makes those vehicles like legendary to you is the fact that you don't have them anymore.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
So,
it's like a good thing you don't have it, but like, you still wish you had it.
Yeah. But if you did have it, like, you wouldn't feel.
It wouldn't be what it is. Right.
It wouldn't be. Yeah, exactly. It wouldn't be that legend in your mind, right?
Right.
So mine was in 2003, I bought a brand new GSXR Suzuki 1000, and it was a beautiful machine. I rode the wheels off that thing, and it was the first bike I ever got in the nines on, and it was
so 03 that's like near the first year of fuel injected bikes, right?
yeah, actually 01 on the Gixxer 1000. 01 was the first Gixxer 1000, and it was fuel injected. 01
Okay.
and 02, and then 03 they redesigned the motor, redesigned the bodywork, and that was, man. And again, that one's just a legend in my mind. Matter of fact, every once in a while Baker will see one for sale on Facebook, and he'll send me a link to it, and
Hell
like teasing me.
yes.
It's like, are you sure you don't want to build another one of these?
Hell
So
yes.
when my wife and I were dating, and we were living in Southeast Kansas, or I was, and well, she was too actually at the time. But there was they called it Biker Boys back. It was a Biker Boy event. It was a movie called Biker Boys back in the day.
Yep,
And
totally.
so they had this event that they called Biker Boys in Tulsa. So Mason and Alyssa, this is before my two biological. Mason and Alyssa, his older sister, are adopted. I don't know if you knew that, but or not.
But it doesn't matter. They're your kids.
Yeah. But at the time, yeah, exactly. I'm dad,
Right.
and when we officially adopted them, they chose to take my name, which is cool.
Cool.
But at the time, they were still visiting their biological father and their grandparents and stuff in Arkansas, and so they were out of town. So Stacy and I went to this Biker Boy event on the motorcycle, and we wake up in the morning in the hotel, and motorcycle's gone, stolen. And I
What?
love this motorcycle. Yeah, it was a big board. At this point, it was big board, stretch. I'd polished the frame and the swing arm. And it just shined like a diamond, and
Hell
it was
yeah.
silver paint too. So it was just a beautiful motorcycle. And I just put nitrous on it and everything too. And this thing was mean. It sounded good. It looked good. Everything about it. And I wake up and it's gone.
Oh,
And it come to find out when the police showed up, I was the ninth call for a stolen motorcycle, because there was a crew going, because the bike event that was going on, there was a crew
right.
going on stealing. And so yeah, we had to figure out a ride home at that point. But anyways, yeah, it was like it's not like you lost a kid, it's a vehicle, right? It could be replaced, but it was like, I always describe it to people as like I lost my favorite dog,
Yeah.
and that's kind of what it felt like, and at the time, because it was kind of the one thing at that stage of my life that was the one nice thing that I had, at that
Right.
time. And
Right. You bought it brand
and so it's always
new,
been it's always been a legend in my mind ever since then. It's always been that bike that I'm like, man, that one,
Yep.
but if it wouldn't have got stolen, it probably wouldn't have been the legend. You know what I mean? It just,
Exactly.
that's kind of what I meant by that earlier. But
Yep. Mason,
I don't quite have one yet.
you haven't done that yet.
Really? Well, there is it's real short. My first vehicle was a 99 Chevy S10.
Okay.
It was a little brown turd.
Whatever.
But
those are great. They're great.
It was awesome. Dad bought it for me. I loved it. I never got to drive it, actually. I wasn't old enough to drive it whenever we got rid of it. But when we got rid of it, we're walking away, watching the people drive away, and Dad goes, "Dude, we could have built that thing and raced it." And I looked at him, I was like,
as it's driving away.
Yeah.
You waited.
Come on, Dustin.
And it's still here in town. I see it all the time.
You should try to buy that thing.
It's like we could have built it and raced it.
You should try to buy that thing.
I did say that. I've had those thoughts about so many different vehicles, because I'm like, man, I could build a bad car. Part of me is like, man, I just don't want to work on cars when, but
right? Everything's twice as heavy, and I get
it. It's kind of going away. We're getting automotive lifts put in my shop, or we got a new commercial property we bought for Moody's Performance. It's growing enough that I was able to afford to do that. Cool. We live debt free, so we just it's a little slower process, but we like to we don't like to take on debt, so we just
we're the same exact way. We drive old stuff. Yeah. It's all paid off. That's a good way to live.
Yeah, and that's just the way we roll. And same with the commercial property. We're fixing it up and buying equipment and all that kind of stuff. At the speed of cash, and we're just now getting some lifts put in there. And I've got a 65 C10 that I ended up picking up and building. Actually, you would love this thing. So it's got I'm sorry, I'm kind of squirreling on you again.
The 65. So if you guys don't know, like that body style, that 64, 65, like that's the jam right now.
Yeah. Oh yeah. 100%. 100%. Well, my first big was that 62 I was telling you about earlier.
Right.
So I've
right.
got this sweet spot in my heart for those trucks. Those
yeah.
are my favorite
Yep.
trucks, period. I love those things. But on this build, it's actually what's ironic is the blue bike that you had a picture up earlier. I built that bike kind of to go along with this 65C10 because it's got the blue patina paint,
Okay.
you
All
know,
right.
rust showing through, you know, but it's got that old cool, you know, patina look to it. And I love that
Totally.
look.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah.
I end up putting a set of 22-inch transport wheels on them, and I had them powder coated pearl white. So I did the pearl white wheels on that blue bike as well.
Okay.
So just kind of where they kind of mimic each other a little bit. And
so you could put
I
that
wanted to
in the back of the
exactly
truck,
that is
and it would
something I
look
plan on
like it
doing.
belonged. Right.
Yeah. And but I wanted to. It had original inline six, and so I wanted to keep original inline six. I ended up building a 250, and I'm now currently building a 292, the big brother version of that. But it's got, you know, the 292s, you know, completely forged H beam rods, long rods, forged pistons. But the 292, I turbocharged it, and I ended up running a Holley Terminator X ECU on it.
Okay.
I fabricated and built my own, instead of distributor, I built my own like camshaft position sensor setup.
Cool.
And I'm running 6 LS coils. So basically the computer thinks it's a 6-cylinder LS.
Cool.
I built my own port injection for it. And if you know anything about those cylinders, those cylinder heads on those, they're Siamese ports. So cylinder 1 and 2 share the same intake port.
Right.
So in order to run individual injectors, it's very crucial to have the timing exactly right for those injectors.
I was gonna say, are they like off to the sides or something, or like
no?
how does that work?
They're straight in like this, but the problem is you have about a 20-degree window between when this intake valve closes and this one opens. So if you're not careful with your injection timing, you'll have one cylinder that will rob fuel from another cylinder, right? So especially, you know, this is a lot more crucial if you're boosted, right? So so I spent a lot of time on paper, a lot of time studying this, and basically what I ended up doing was I have a short window for injector pulse. So I just run a little bit larger injectors than I probably would have for this build. That way it requires less pulse width, and then you use injection timing, you know, to get that just perfect where when this one intake valve's closing, then you spray fuel for the next cylinder. Anyways,
smart.
But this thing, you know, those old inline sixes, they sound like tractors when they're running, right? When they're idling, and up to about 3,000, they just sound like tractors. But up to I ordered a turbo cam for it, put a turbo cam in it, and turn the RPMs up to like 6,500 RPMs on this thing. And these things are only supposed to turn like 4,000 RPMs at most.
Right. Stock. They don't.
At most. And this thing goes from sounding like a tractor on 14 pounds of boost. Sounds like a tractor, and then at 3,000 RPMs, it starts to sound like a Ferrari. It's insane.
Cool.
And every time, and I put a TKO 600 5-speed training behind it. So it's a fun thing. And I drove this thing for like 3 or 4 months, and then I'm like, I want to build this 292 for it. So I yank I yank out the 250, start building the 292. And I paid a guy because I don't do the body work. Remember, I told you I got the short end of the stick on that deal. My brother's
it happens.
The genes for that. And so I paid a guy to, you know, fix body work, put patch panels in, get rid of all the cancer. You know, I want to keep a little bit of patina and rust to it, but I just want the cancer in it. So and that's kind of where that's kind of where it's set since, unfortunately. You know, it's one of those projects where now I don't quite have it finished again, but man, I've got this itch though. Now we're getting these lifts installed, and we just put one of them, or started putting one of them up last night. I'm like, man, once I get these lifts in the shop, because we're going to start, we've already started, but you know, Moody's Performance, we're kind of morphing over and doing a lot more car stuff as well.
Cool.
The market for motorcycles is just not very big. It just is what it is. And so I'm gonna, you know, start taking on a lot more car work and all that kind of stuff.
Cool.
So I'm gonna need those automotive lifts in there, but then I can use it on helping get my truck going again. So
exactly, you get it's
a
win-win-win,
man.
It's a win-win-win.
It'd be exciting.
I'm gonna start with Mason first on this one. Favorite racetrack?
You cut out. Hang on.
Oh, sorry. Favorite racetrack?
Favorite racetrack? Man, you're going to know his. Dude, honestly, Flying H.
Okay.
That was awesome.
a real nice, brand new. Yeah.
Yeah, that was Texas Motorplex would have been. It's a close second, but I've ran my 2 fastest passes at those places.
Okay.
So,
All right.
which that that kind of that'll bring it home.
That helps.
That'll bring it home
What,
pretty easy.
what are your 2 fastest passes?
So last year I struggled. I think it was because it was a little bit hotter. I didn't run anything faster than a 985, and I finished last year with like a 10:15 average, I think.
Okay.
This year I didn't run anything slower. I didn't turn in anything slower than a 990.
Ooh, nice.
My fastest this year was a 957.
Dude.
So that was, yeah, it was for me, going from
That's
fastest last year to 985 to this year, second day, I'm going 957. I was like, dude,
that's
this
a
thing is
big
moving.
difference. That's a
Yeah.
big difference. And with within a half a second of the old man.
Yeah. And then
Oh,
I
yeah.
finished this year with a 982 average or something like that. So that was
Okay.
pretty cool.
Hell yeah, dude.
Yeah, it would probably have to be Flying H. We were only there for like 2 hours, but it was awesome.
It was a nice track.
I mean, it counts.
Yeah.
Dustin.
Man, it's Bandimere for me. It really
Okay.
is. I miss Bandimere so much. That
Same.
has hands down. Every time I'd go down the staging lanes, every single time I'd get goosebumps. Oh, there it is.
There you go.
Yeah, that's one epic picture. Some of the best people I know in that picture right there.
Yeah.
Man, yes, it's just so beautiful. The mountains. Of course, I'm a sucker for Colorado, anyways.
Right.
So I might be a little bit biased, but there's no cooler feeling than coming down the staging lanes and then just this awe of the track opening up underneath the tower. As you drive
that downhill staging lane, and then
yes,
and it's mountains and awesome, and yes. That I grew up there, and it's giving me goosebumps right now.
Yeah, me too, bro. Me too.
I loved that place like no other, and I'm really really sad that it's not going to be a racetrack anymore. But I'm really also excited that they have. It seems like they've committed to putting something else in, and then I know it's not going to be the same, but that family poured their heart and soul in that place, and I'm sure they're going to do the same to that next place, and it won't be the same. But it's going to be a Bandimere facility, and it's going to be cool as hell. But this place,
that's what makes Bandimere legendary, though, is the fact it's not there anymore, too.
Yep,
you know what I mean?
Exactly.
It's always going to be that legend.
You got to do that, and not a lot of guys got to do that, and very, very, very less people have been able to do that on a drag and drive motorcycle, because I think at that point it was only the 3rd year or something like that, or 4th year that they were allowed there. So, and the first few years were pretty low bike counts. So, you're one of, who knows, 24 people that have drag and drive motorcycled ever at Bandimere. That's got to be something you can pin to your tail a little bit.
Oh yeah, for sure. Now Flying H, there's a lot of great tracks out there. A lot of them.
Tons.
And I'm a sucker for Mocan, but again, I'm a little biased because that's my hometown track. I love Mocan, and there's great people, great family that's owned it forever. I love a lot of those tracks.
But the Blantons would say the same. I think they would say, dude, I would race at Bandimere. Like they love Mocan too.
Yeah.
But
yeah,
I mean that place, and it's the same exact deal as you're talking about with your GSXR. Its legend is that it's no one else is ever going to make it past there, and we got to.
We're going to tell those stories till the end of days.
Yeah, and people won't believe you.
Awesome that place was.
People won't believe you. It was a racetrack carved into the side of a mountain. No, it wasn't.
They won't.
Yes, it was.
They won't get the goosebumps like we do. But
nope. Yeah. Hell no. I'm nearly to the end of my questions. So if you have questions, throw them up in the comments. We'll get them answered here. But the one I give you a heads up on: what car or motorcycle would you like to drive and or ride, just for like a pass or a handful of passes? And which one would you like to put in your garage? Which one would you like to own?
Who do you want to go first?
Your call. You're already talking, so
you go
let's get
first.
you, Dustin.
Okay.
Oh, okay, me.
Yeah,
All right.
you go.
So let's. Shoot. I know which one I'd like to own. I'm a sucker for G bodies. And what's I'm bad with names. What's the wheel dude? Is it Wheel
From where?
from New York? Dude from New York.
Stephen
Willingham. That's
Willingham.
it.
Stephen
Yeah, I'm terrible
Willingham.
with names.
And
My
that dude is
apologies.
the nicest dude on the planet. And
Yeah.
that Grand National, dude.
Yes, dude. I'm a sucker,
Dude.
man. I'm a sucker for that. I would love to have that. That thing is bad. He didn't have the. I've never spoke to him before. But I think he was there this year with a Camaro, right? At Mega Week.
He brought his Camaro.
Yeah.
That's his kind of like nonstop plan B. If the Grand National can't make it, and that dude lives in New York City, and comes up with places. He's got a garage, which is, if you've been in New York City, to have a garage in New York City, dude.
Yeah, that's insane. Yeah.
I'm just saying. The amount of money he has to spend on his housing, and then he can build a G body and have his backup car runs 10.0. Dude, Steve Willingham is my dude, and that dude smiles more than anybody on the planet.
He's a bad dude, and he drives all the way. Man, he's a bad dude.
He drives that Camaro all the way from New York, and he did with his G body his first time. He took out his supercharged Escalade and towed it out. But he's got like a 600 horsepower Escalade. That dude's no joke. That dude's got some cool stuff for sure. I like it. Which one would you like to ride/drive?
Man, I'd like to see I'd like to feel a 6-second pass in a door slammer. So,
okay.
What's his name?
Brian Goldstone.
Goldstone. I'm telling you,
Goldstone's Javelin, dude. Oh
man, that's. I watched that pass at Flying H. I think he did like what was it, like 660 at like
662 or something like that, and then it pulled the chutes off of it.
It was insane. Man, that thing's insane. I would like to see what that feels like.
That car is nuts. That car is nuts
for sure.
You guys deal with, and it's a lot of. We're talking a lot of horsepower. 350 horsepower on a motorcycle is a lot. You consider it like a fast Honda is 300 horsepower. Fast. Depends on what your idea of fast is, but a fast street Honda is 300 horsepower. It's 2,000 or 2,200 pounds. His car is 2,000 horse. Like his power to weight ratio is probably near what yours is on your bike, but
that's wild.
In a Javelin, in a freaking full car, like it's insane when you start thinking about it.
I'll give you an example of what it feels like on my ZRX whenever you're launching that bike. But honestly, I'll be 100% honest with you. Cars feel faster. I could be in a 12-second car and it feels faster. And I think it's because the way our bodies, because you're sitting in a seat and so much more of your body feels the pressure.
Right.
But on that bike, launching that bike right there, it feels like all the pressure's in my shoulders, every single bit of it. And so I'm telling you, Baker will test this too. His boost is the same way. When those things are pulling mid-track, it feels like the bike's trying to pull out from underneath you. Like you're trying to fly down. It's all right here in the shoulders.
Okay.
And you're like holding on, you're tensing up, like holding yourself down and trying to make sure you keep going straight. And like the bike's shaking and it's doing all kinds of, you're hearing all the noises and because you're right on top of the motor, so you hear all these weird.
Yeah. Everything that's making noise is on top of you, right? Or you're on top of, right?
Yeah. But I guarantee you that 6-second pass in that Javelin is
that's
gotta be insane.
It's
gotta be insane. I would like to see what that feels like. So I guarantee you I don't have the driving ability to drive something now.
Slap the passenger seat in it and just let him do his thing. Hell yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Mason. I really do hope he watches this. I would say I would love to take Baker's Busa on a pass.
Okay.
Just because
it's fast, it's guttural, it's nuts.
Yeah. So whenever we first built that the ZH2, the bike that I'm racing now, last
Yep.
year, the first time we put it on a track was the day before we started race week.
Okay.
And I was too scared to I was too nervous to go do it first. I didn't want to be the first one to put it on a track.
Right.
So Dad had Baker do it. Well, he ends up running like a 972, I think, or something on it.
Okay.
And ever since then, I just wanted to beat that number.
Right.
I
Right.
I feel like I could do the same thing on his Busa too.
Hell yeah. I love it.
He
I
thinks he
love
can
it.
beat Baker's number.
Yeah,
842.
yeah, I can beat Baker on his own motorcycle. Yeah, let's make that happen.
I don't know. I don't
Which
know.
one would you like to own?
Man, and it's kind of, I would say Matt Frost's Bride, dude.
Okay.
That's a good one too. Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
so nice. Which
The
actually the
Hulk.
first
The
time,
Hulk. The Hulk. Yeah.
yes, the first time I met him, I have his autograph on a hat. And I was probably 10 years old. I had no idea really who he was. Dad was like, dude,
Right.
go get this guy's autograph. So now it's just sitting in my room on a hat. And now I'm like, I've had multiple conversations with the
Right.
guy.
Shaking hands with that dude, and you're
Yeah.
like, okay, all right.
Yeah.
Hell
Yeah.
yeah, dude.
Man, that thing is so sweet.
The Hulk is, if you guys have never seen the Hulk, it's insane. And if you get a chance, look at the trunk. I tell people all the time, the carbon fiber in the trunk is black and green. It matches the car. It's like his attention to detail is second to none. That dude has a good eye for a lot of really, really cool automotive and even motorcycle stuff. Like he's built a couple of bikes that have, long chopper when that like kind of West Coast chopper stuff was going.
Yeah.
He had a couple of those and they were the same exact thing. Like the attention to detail on that stuff has just been, that dude's an artist with his cars. 100%.
So, funny story on that time. I almost forgot about that till Mason just run that when we met. He was in Tulsa. He was in Tulsa with the Hulk.
Street Outlaws.
Was it? Oh, was
Yeah,
it
Street Outlaws at the
deal?
drag-
That's
at the
what-
drag
Probably
Okay.
Street Outlaws. Yep, totally
I forgot
was.
about that. So we went up to talk to him, and it was Matt and June were there, and so I just remember we had a long conversation, and he talked about his car, and the kids, Mason and my nephews were down, got his autograph and everything, and they
Cool.
were. I remember walking. It was, I don't remember what year it was exactly, but he was like, "Well, have you ever heard of Rocky Mountain Race Week?" And at the time, I didn't. And I was like,
Right.
"No, I never." And he's like, "Really? You haven't heard of it?" And I was like, "Man, I don't watch a lot of TV because I literally don't watch a lot of TV or YouTube
Yeah.
or anything." And so I was like, "Man, I'm sorry, no, I haven't heard it." And he said, kind of described it a little bit. I was like, "Man, that sounds pretty cool. That's cool." And I had no idea that years later we would be racing in it, and then also becoming a sponsor, of the. I mean, it's just cool how everything just kind of goes full circle. But I remember walking away, and Stacey and I were talking, and we were like, "Man, they were just so cool, down to earth, and just
regular
talk
people
to us like we were regular." And a lot of the other people that were there, were too busy to talk to people.
They were
or whatever,
they
but
were already
just,
famous, and that dude's never been famous in his own mind. I mean, he's just a dude. He's a trucker in his mind, and he's doing cool stuff, and he's doing he's signing autographs for your boy and whatnot, but he's still just a dude you could go up to and talk to and bullshit with and have a good time with. Like he's just a down to earth dude. And he always has been. He always will be. That's what I love about that dude. Always.
Yeah, it was awesome. Yeah.
Hey, I did think about thrashing. I did.
Oh,
get
let's
the
go.
finish,
Okay,
but I kind of changed it up a little bit.
I can't
So
wait.
this one was for me and Dad both. It was a pretty personal thrash. Was it the week before?
I don't know.
Teeth.
He doesn't know what you're talking about yet.
The week before we were getting ready to go, we play slow pitch softball together.
Okay.
So this is Tuesday night. I throw a ball to him. He's looking right at me. Throw it to him. Underhand it to him. And he looks away, split second, and I smoked him right in the middle of the mouth.
Perfect.
Broke 3 teeth.
Yeah. Yeah, a week before we go on Rocky Mountain Race Week. I was like, bro, I ain't trying to go on Rocky Mountain Race Week looking like
With-
a crackhead. We're going
Yeah,
on here.
yeah, exactly. With no teeth in my head. What the hell?
That was
So there's more to this story. Since he opened the bag, we might as well tell the story. So luckily his older sister Alyssa is she's she's a dental hygienist now. So we go to her office, and I was like, listen, long story short, I ended up having to get 3 implants and bone grafts. It's going to be a long time healing. Well,
Right.
and it's like I need a temporary and I'm going on this race week, and by this point it's like a few days.
Right.
Like we're
right.
leaving
You
for
got
race
like
week,
2 or 3 days to figure this out.
Yeah.
Right.
And I'm like, and so they hurry up and do impressions, and they hurry up and get a temporary to me, and it fits like crap. But whatever. I'm like, I don't care at least I'm showing up to Rocky Mountain Race Week with something in my face.
Right.
And so we go through that rainstorm that we were talking about earlier.
that drive day.
And so that we learned a long time ago, we don't get hotels ahead of time, because we
Right.
never know how we're gonna feel,
Where you're going to
or
be.
just like
Yeah,
then.
exactly.
If we would have planned a hotel at the stop, we would have never made it, because we were so exhausted by the time we made it through the storm, and the temperature
Right.
dropped about 15 degrees. Then we were
Right.
wet and cold, and it was like, and we're all like, Baker's just like, dude, I'm done. I'm like, me too. I was just waiting for somebody to say it. Yeah, I was just waiting for somebody to say it. I'm done too. So we end up getting a hotel in Newton, Kansas, and then we go and try to dry out and go get something to eat. I have to take these temporaries out to eat. So I take the temporary teeth out, and this place is packed with people, and I'm like, I don't want my teeth just hanging out. It's weird. So I wrap it up in a napkin on my tray, and I'm like,
Someone threw your teeth away.
So I look at Mason. I'm like, hey, bro, remind me. I don't want to throw these teeth away. Remind me. And we eat, and when I throw my whole tray away, and we get back to the hotel room, and I walk in the hotel room. I'm like, my teeth. Oh crap! So we run back.
That looks like a crackhead.
We run back. They've emptied the trash. They're gone, and I'm like, dude, I'm so self-cautious about this. So I have them in right now. See, I got teeth, because I didn't want to go on this podcast without teeth in, because I threw them away. So we just got them in this afternoon. And
Nice.
and like 2 hours ago, I'm like, well, I hope they fit, and I put them in, and they fit perfect. I'm like, oh.
Perfect.
Oh.
On the podcast.
So that's thrashing for you right there, bud.
Hell yes.
That was crazy.
I love it. My last question for you guys. I'm going to let you guys go, and so you can grab a little bit of sleep. But what advice do you have for newbies? And I think for you guys both specifically, someone that wants to drag and drive a motorcycle.
Just do it.
Yeah, if you're thinking about it, just do it. Yeah, for sure. I highly advise a trailer. If you're serious about it, I highly advise a trailer. Camelback, water, hydrated, stay hydrated. Don't mess around with that. You don't want to get hurt.
What we haven't seen yet is a sidecar. I want someone to bring a sidecar.
I thought about building one. It crossed my mind.
Yep.
It crossed my mind.
Someone needs to bring a sidecar.
The only question with that is, do you race with the sidecar?
No, you only race on the 2. You got to take the sidecar off. But
okay, so that'd be
stuff all your crap in a sidecar, and then you're not as long. You're wide but short.
Hey, my wife's over there. She says, you build a sidecar, I might go with you.
See, we're ruining people just as we keep going here. So a sidecar and a trailer, because you're going to have 2 people's of stuff.
Yep, that's true.
So
it can be
sidecar and trailer.
It can be done.
I like
a little fabrication. It can be done. I might do it. You never know. I might show up. I might show up next year.
I've seen you show up with some crazy stuff. So I'm not going to dare you in any way, shape, or form. Mason, advice for newbies.
Like I said, just do it. It sucks, but it sucks for everybody.
Right.
Like, some of the guys I was talking to in the Quick 32, they're like, dude, how was Tuesday? And I'm like, I mean, it was bad, but you guys got to think about driving in that stuff too. Yeah, granted, we do have more to think about,
right,
and more to kind of be cautious over, because we are on an open body vehicle. But to me, we know what we're signing up for. We got into it for a reason. We're gonna embrace the suck and just do it. It's like just having that mentality of, I did it, so I signed up for it. Whatever comes my way, we're gonna figure it out. If he throws his teeth away on a Tuesday, we're gonna make it.
We're still going to show up on Wednesday, and we're still going to do big ass wheelies on bikes that aren't supposed to do big ass wheelies. That's what we're going to do.
Just making the memories, meeting people. I mean, it's the culture. The culture is something else too, and that's and I don't know if times have changed, but I remember when we would go to MoCan on our motorcycles, it didn't seem like the car guys and the bike guys really got along. We always stayed to ourselves, but there was always this, you could overhear like, what are the bikes going on? You'd always hear this stuff. We don't hear none of that. And it's just everybody gets along, everybody respects everybody, and it don't matter what you're riding. Like I don't know how many times people come up to me and they're like,
you can ride a Jap bike, you can drive a Jap car, you can, whatever it is. It doesn't matter. You're in the group, like.
I love seeing the families there. The husband and wife's doing things, the kids there doing it. I mean, I just think that's so cool, and I'm grateful to be able to have these experiences with my own son. And the memories that we're creating.
And you guys both got hardware this year.
Yeah. No, I didn't get any hardware this year.
Oh, you didn't get any?
Nope.
Oh, you suck.
No.
But Mason.
Well, I went not planning on it.
Right. Definitely.
I brung a slow bike because I know I'm going to podium, and I wasn't going to try to win my own award. So
right. But guys, man, we're at my bladder limit. I told you at the beginning. I can't quite go 2 hours, but we're there. And luckily, I'm at the end of my questions, so I'm gonna throw it out here. But guys, thank you. Like, this has been so much fun. Thanks for rapping about Mega Week, talking about doing it on bikes, talking about Moody's, and doing it with your boy and doing it with your dad. Like, that's got to be a real cool thing for you guys to do. And thanks for rocking with Drag and Drive. Thanks for rocking with Drag and Drive motorcycles. And you guys are awesome, man. Give us a last little bit here from each of you for everybody. Just anything, throw it out there.
It's surreal being able to. So actually, the first time we lined up, I won't get too deep into it. The first time me and Dad ever lined up, I was on my ZRX and he was on his ZRX, and Chris Story got a photo of it. Dude. That photo will never leave my mind. Like, that's
hell yes.
And still, even this year he was running 12s and I'm running 9s, but still, dude, lining up, knowing like he's the reason I'm here doing it. It's just it's awesome.
Dude, in more ways than one, to be 100% honest with you, like the motorcycle class was an experiment, and your dad was one of the dudes that, like, we can make this a viable thing. And in fact, we can grow it. So, like, the Moody name has some real good roots in Rocky Mountain Race Week. So you can kind of hang your hat on that. That's got to be a real cool thing to stick with. So I'm happy to hear that from you, but I want to hear Dustin. One last thing.
I appreciate you saying that. The only, if I was going to leave anybody with anything, I would say, regardless what aspect in life you're dealing with, what you're going through, that, live in the moments, live in all the moments, every opportunity, every different stage of your life. Like, I'm going through a new stage of life of being a parent with a 21 or 21 plus year old, so it's a new stage of parenting. So, embrace it, live with it, go with it. And if you're, when you're going through like Rocky Mountain Race Week and you're going through a hard time, just embrace it and enjoy it and just live it, man. Just live and enjoy every aspect of life. So
I love it. Guys, I appreciate you. I'm going to throw you on the back burner here real quick, but I want to say goodnight to you before we leave. I will say goodnight to all of our watchers and whatnot, but
sweet.
Thank you guys. This has been so much fun. So everyone, the Moody's, give it up to those guys. Woo! You guys are awesome. Thank you so much. I'll say goodnight to you here real quick. How freaking cool was that? Dustin and Mason, super duper cool to have both those guys on. Again, a father-son team on motorcycles at Mega Week. Very, very cool. Had an absolutely great time with those guys. So thanks for staying up late. Thanks for hanging out with us. Episode 78 of That's Cool Drink. We are rolling it out and knocking it out. We're going to call it a night. I have Steve Hafner on next week, and he had the awesome G-Body Cutlass that made its debut at Mega Week. He off the gas ran like in the 880 range, and I talked to him when I was setting up for next week, and he said, I am coming to win Rocky Mountain Race Week next year. So Steve Hafner will be on next week, and it's going to be absolutely awesome. But that said, tonight for Tuesday night, everybody, episode 78 with Dustin and Mason, which was totally awesome. We are done. I'll see you guys next week. Thanks so much. Woo! What a night.